Hey guys, what's going on? This is Andrew here today, and this is going to be a pretty cool video because I've been wanting to do a review like this for a while. So basically, I just got myself an OUYA off of Mercari for about 30 bucks, and then I got the controller separately for about 20. So in this video, we're going to really just be seeing how this console holds up to this day. It obviously failed a long time ago, but I want to see what features you can still use with this console and if it still is a good alternative. In a separate video, I'm going to do emulation on this thing, and then in the video after that, I'm going to try to get Clone Hero on this thing. So keep an eye out for that. Let's get straight into reviewing it. So let's start off talking about the actual console itself, just the design. So basically, it is a pretty small form factor. You got the power button up there. On the front, you just got the OUYA logo, as you can see right there, and there are some ports right here, such as a USB 2.0 port, an HDMI port, a Ethernet port, a micro USB port, and then the place you plug in the power, so a 9-volt power. So basically, the ventilation seems like it comes out through the bottom right there. I'm not going to tear down this controller by any means, and I don't ever plan on doing it in the future, but honestly, I think this is a very nice little small form factor console, and if it would have had some more features in it at launch, I feel like this could have taken off as a console alternative, but obviously, as you guys know, this console did not take off. But in terms of pure just from a design perspective, I think it is pretty good. I think one thing they could have done a little better is maybe just add an extra USB port, because one USB port is not enough, especially if you're using extra peripherals and using this as some kind of like emulation device. Like I said before, I'd like to test Clone Hero on this thing, so I would love to connect my Xbox 360 Explorer to it, or maybe even the Wii guitar, but I'm going to have to obviously connect a keyboard to it to map the controls down, and then disconnect the keyboard and plug the thing back in. So it's going to be a little bit of a hassle, but very excited to get working on this thing. So great design for an exterior console. Let's get into talking about the controller. So I've talked about this controller quite a few times now, and this is honestly one of my least favorite controllers I've ever played on. And it's not that it's the worst controller in the world, but I'd say it's the worst dual analog stick controller I've ever felt. It really just does not feel good in your hands. All the buttons on it feel really cheap, especially the LB and RB, and then the LT and RT. Honestly, I think also the weird thing that they had to do was spell out OUYA instead of just making it like Xbox controls at that point, because all it really did was just change the letters. At this point, it's still color-coded the exact same way as an Xbox controller. One interesting feature that I didn't know about this until I played on the console was it actually had a mouse pad. This is the mouse pad that it has on here. So I guess it has some kind of mouse support in a sense that way, but not a very good feeling controller, to be completely honest. So the last thing that we're going to talk about before getting into the software side of things are the specs on the OUYA itself. So what we're looking at here is 1 GB of RAM, 8 GB of internal flash storage. For the CPU, it's an NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core processor, and it outputs up to 1080p. So basically, not a very powerful console by all means, but it does have an NVIDIA CPU in there that is powering the system. So pretty interesting technology in there. Can't wait to see what this thing can do. Taking a look at the startup screen, this is what you go to see. So basically all you have to do is obviously just sync your controller to the system with the button. Mine is already synced, so all we really had to do was just do that. So going into here, we got a bunch of different areas that we're about to explore. So let's start at the bottom and make our way to the top as we're going through these settings. So the first one that I'm going to go through is in the Manage tab, and we're going to go down to System. So first one right here just shows you the console info of your system itself. The other one right here just does the system updates when connected to Wi-Fi. And going into Advanced brings you into an Android kind of settings area, a much older version of Android kind of settings area. So it is pretty cool and detailed in here, as if you would have this on like a regular Android phone from this time period. You can do some developer options in here, which I haven't honestly done yet, but at some point I will go into here and start messing with these settings once I get to know this console a little more. But that's everything here with the advanced settings. Right under the system settings, you got your notification settings, which obviously I have none, your network settings, which I still need to set up, settings for your controllers, and your account settings. So that's everything under the Manage section. Let's look at Make Next. So this setting right here has basically been rendered utterly useless at this point, just because OUYA failed a very long time ago, and there's not really an active community, at least to my knowledge, in this regard. So if you even were to go to your browser to go to the devs page, the site isn't even up, it's temporarily down, or it might even be at a new spot, as this thing says. So going there really can't do much. And then this part is honestly just for the developers to check out their own stuff. So that's really all there is to the Make stuff. Not anything really crazy that you can do there anymore. Alright, so the next features that we're going to be looking at, unfortunately, aren't going to be that useful, because at this point, what I didn't know is that OUYA actually was shut down in 2019. This project basically meant that the servers were just down. You really can't go in this tab. It's going to tell you that your internet connection isn't playing nice, but really the servers just are down. You can't get to these sections. There are areas in here such as these apps, and games like Jackbox will work, but unfortunately you can't run any updates, at least through the servers that are going through OUYA in general. So basically, there's really not much you can do with the system unless you kind of do things manually with flash drives outside of the system through APKs and stuff like that. But let's say that you actually want to play a game that you have in here. Basically, you get into there just by clicking it. It's going to load right up, but say you get really bored of the game after like a few minutes of playing. How exactly do you get out of it? Well, you have to hold down the OUYA button. You can't just simply press it. You got to hold it down, and then it brings you back to the menus. Just to show how not powerful the system is at all, we're going to be looking at a game right here that should be not demanding whatsoever, but still seems to not run at a good frame rate. So this is the game that we just saw before that we launched into. This is kind of like a Skyrim clone, if you would call it that, in a way, because that's really how it feels. Not a very good playing game on the system just because the frame rate is pretty low. Honestly, itself, the game isn't the worst, but just seeing that it just doesn't have a great frame rate just goes to show this console isn't very powerful. You can see some slowdown already, some frame rate drops every once in a while, so yeah, not a very powerful system as I talked about before when talking about the specs. So should you buy an OUYA in 2021? It really depends on who you are. If you're a hardcore collector like I am, sure, just have it as a collector's tool. But if you're someone who is looking to get a good experience on an alternative system, this one is really just not it. There are ways to expand the storage and all that to be able to get more emulators on here. And in my next video, I will be talking about emulation on the system. But in terms of how you would have to set it up, it's not as easy as you were to do it on like a regular Android phone or even on PC for that matter. So not a very easy console to work with in my opinion, and honestly this would be like the last pick for me, considering that smartphones nowadays are much more powerful than this. I mean, even my Moto X4 was able to do more demanding stuff than this console was able to do. So anyway guys, thank you all for watching this video if you sat all the way through it. That is my take on the OUYA in 2021, so I will see you all in the next video, and hopefully you guys will tune in to see how this does with various emulators if I can get them to work. If I can't get them to work, then there won't be another video, and you'll see that in the description.